What's up, everybody? How we doing? Matt Modi here with Jedi Modi Sports Network, and I have 5 early line shopping picks for NFL Week 4 that I've already locked in, and I recommend you do the same. One thing that I love doing is looking at lines when they first open, Sunday night, Mondays, seeing if there's any difference in the markets, and then taking advantage of sports books that might have a little bit of a mispriced line. So for this week, instead of doing upsets, on Monday, I decided to do early line shopping, and I will have upsets drop tomorrow, being Tuesday, with 4 teams playing on Monday Night Football. I wanted to just let those 4 games play out and then decide who I liked for my upset picks after those games have been finished. So just a little bit of a scheduling difference, but we can get right into these picks real quick. Actually, before we do that, would appreciate it if you could like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff helps me out a ton as I attempt to grow this channel. And let's chat early line shopping picks. So the first play that we have in the Ravens versus Browns game, give me the Browns -2.5. This is at -105 odds at FanDuel. The Browns defense is just incredible. I saw a stat that looking at success rate through 3 games of the NFL season, with 2 games still to go for Monday Night Football tonight, the Browns have the top 3 defensive performances of the entire season. Week 1 against the Bengals, Week 2 against the Steelers, Week 3 against the Titans, who they just smashed. I understand that the Ravens might be the best competition that they've had considering those 3 games. Week 1, we got a diminished version of whatever the heck the Bengals were. Week 2, Steelers offense, not the most impressive machine in the world, although they did look a little bit better last night. And then the Titans offense has been dreadful through 3 weeks, but still, if they can annihilate bad competition, that says things about a really good defense. And the Ravens offense has not been super impressive. They have a new offensive coordinator, so they're already going to be kinks to work out. And they're missing their top 3 running backs, which is just brutal that they've dealt with this injury luck, which seems like every year for the past 5 years at the running back position. And the Ravens offense struggled against the Colts defense that is not even remotely close to as good as this Browns defense. This Browns defense has talent all up and down their roster. And on the other side of the field, I don't fully trust Deshaun Watson because he was brutal for the first 2 weeks, but he at least looked a little bit better in week 3 against the Titans. I know the Titans have a really bad pass defense, and the way to beat the Titans is to win through the air. But at least, again, that's exactly what Deshaun Watson and the Browns did. You can only play your level of competition. And if you're smoking in that competition, that probably says good things about that team. Even without Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford took the start at running back position, and he played really well. He had a nice receiving touchdown. Granted, he was wide open, but still. So as long as Deshaun Watson doesn't throw the ball backwards like he did that one play, I'm confident that they will be able to do enough to get the win and cover the 2.5 point spread against the Ravens as our first pick. Next up, this is in the Steelers versus Texans game, and we are going to take the over 40.5 points scored, taking the over 40.5. This is at -115 odds at BetMGM. Here's a thought. Maybe these 2 offenses are actually better than we initially thought. The Texans offense through 3 games has actually been really good. So we're going to stick with them for a second. CJ Stroud looks legit. He looks like the best quarterback of this class. Again, I don't need to preface this with every pick, but I understand that it's early. But through 3 games, CJ Stroud has yet to throw 1 interception. He's got 4 touchdowns and 906 total yards. That's pretty good. And I get that the Steelers defense with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith are really, really good, and they should be able to pressure CJ Stroud and the banged up Texans offensive line. I still think that the Texans are going to be able to put up points. He also might have legit weapons in Tank Dell and Nico Collins. At running back, I have always liked Dameon Pierce. I thought he was a good running back. I'm confident that the Texans are going to be able to put points up. Sure, they're not going to get a ridiculous kick return for a touchdown, but even outside of that, their offense looked good. And then on the Steelers side, we saw last night what a Steelers offense looks like when they're not playing 2 of the best defenses in the NFL in the 49ers and the Browns. Now, I'm not telling you that the Steelers offense looked like the greatest show on turf, but at least they were able to consistently move the ball and score some points. They at least looked average, which is much, much improved from how they looked the first 2 weeks. And this Texans defense is well coached, so I'll give them that. They're not a complete dumpster fire, but they just don't have the talent to even really be average. And they're banged up in the secondary, missing, I think, 3 starters in the secondary. I would put the Texans defense closer to bad than even average. And 40.5 is just such a low total, right? We don't need these offenses to put up 30 points. If they both score in the 20s, we win this wager over 40.5. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. I don't have a play on who's going to win straight up. I do like the total. Again, 40 is so low. I think both offenses will be able to score within the 20s, cashing this over for us. Next up, the Rams versus Colts game. Give me the Rams -1.5. This is at plus 100 odds at FanDuel. Now, this is admittedly a little bit risky because I'm recording this before the Rams have played, but I'm willing to accept the risk that they're going to come out of the game tonight against the Bengals healthy. And I also think that they're going to just win straight up, even if Joe Burrow plays. I think the Rams are going to win straight up. They're actually one of my upset picks for this week. And if they do, the guess is you're not going to be able to get this line much further if the Rams look as good as I'm expecting them to look. It's one of those things where at the beginning of the year, you're not really sure what's real and what's not real. I think that the Rams might just be a good football team. I understand that they haven't had a draft pick since I was in diapers, and I understand that their talent level is significantly different than the year they won the Super Bowl. But we know that McVay's a good head coach. They seem to have weapons in Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, and Kyren Williams. And we've seen the magic between McVay and Stafford before. In week 1, they smoked Seattle. I mean, Seattle, if you look at their offense in the second half, they didn't even have 15 yards of offense. And then the week after that, last week against the 49ers, the Rams looked pretty good for the majority of that game. They just let off the gas a little bit at the end. A turnover killed them. We all know that the Colts are not the 49ers. So the fact that they even held tough against the 49ers, I think, says a lot about the Rams. And on the Colts side, they're coming off of a victory against the Ravens. Everybody is high on them. I am not buying it. I did think they looked fine against the win against the Ravens, I should say. I thought that said more about the Ravens than it did against the Colts. Gardner Minshew, I'm not going to say he looked that great. Granted, he didn't turn it over, so he didn't lose the game for them, but it wasn't that super impressive of a victory. He threw for 227 yards and they scored 22 points. The guess here is that we will see Gardner once again, that Richardson is not going to be able to play from his concussion. And I love to fade Gardner Minshew, so give me the Rams -1.5 in this one as our third play. Fourth up, we're taking the Raiders +5 against the Chargers. This is at -115 odds at Barstool. I know, I get it. Jimmy G looked awful on Sunday, and he's now in the concussion protocol. He looked awful against the Steelers. But let's be real, they're playing the Chargers, the biggest group of losers probably in the NFL when you look at their talent level. Why would we ever trust the Cardinals and lay 5 points for the Cardinals? We know how much that organization struggles in games that they should win. They still manage to lose. In games that shouldn't be close, they managed to keep it close. And last week, sure, congratulations, they got their first win of the year against the Vikings. Well, the Vikings had, I think, 20 snaps or 15 snaps inside the 25-yard line in the last 4 minutes of that game, could not score. That doesn't necessarily make me feel great about the Chargers. And now they're missing Mike Williams, obviously a starting receiver, him opposite of Keenan Allen. I don't think that we're going to see Austin Eckler, so being out Eckler and Mike Williams hurts. And the Chargers defense is terrible. They weren't good against the Vikings. They had some turnover luck, which is why the final score of 24 points looked a little bit better. But I will never trust the Cardinals to cover a 5-point spread, even without Jimmy G. This game just screams a field goal. We'll gladly take the 5 points for the Raiders as our fourth play. And last up, fifth and final play for this video, the Seahawks +2.5 against the Giants. This is at -117 odds at SportTrade. While we're on the subject of SportTrade, they're legal in Colorado and in New Jersey. So if you're in one of those two states, I highly recommend downloading it. They consistently have the best odds. If you do download it, use promo code, my last name, MODI. That helps me out a ton. If you're not in Colorado or New Jersey, I would actually probably hold off on this spread until hopefully you can find it at 2.5 without too much juice, like at -117. But talking about the game, why are the Giants getting 2.5 points? I don't understand. They played 3 games this year. They played 6 halves of football. They've looked good in one of those halves, 1 of 6 in the second half against the freaking Cardinals, who I know just beat the Cowboys, but still, they're the Cardinals. The Giants have looked horrible. I don't understand why they're getting 2.5 points here. Meanwhile, the Seahawks have bounced back from that gross week 1 that I referenced earlier. Back-to-back wins for Seattle and a pretty impressive victory against the Lions in Detroit 2 weeks ago. Their offense, Geno Smith, looks great. Last week, they took it to the Panthers, mostly in that second half, But don't let the one score game fool you. They controlled the majority of that game. The Panthers just came back and scored late garbage time touchdown. But like I said, Geno Smith looks great. Their offense looks great with Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet at the running back position, wide receiver with Metcalf, Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I am very confident that the Seahawks are going to be able to put up points against not a great Giants defense. And I do not have faith that the Giants are going to be able to score points. So would love getting the 2.5 points. We'll probably talk about Seattle in our upset picks later this week. But as for this one, we just need them to cover 2.5. Rounding out our 5 picks of the evening. 1 unit on all 5 of these. Hopefully we can have a winning record on these. If you're tailing, comment and let me know. Other than that, remember to like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.